Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and as requested, I'm here to talk about some audiobook recommendations. Audiobooks are a thing that, up until very, very recently, I was listening to a lot of. I'm still listening to them, but because I used to listen to them while I was on transit, and because I haven't been on transit in over a month at this point, it's dwindled a little bit, but I'm still excited about them. What I figured I would do is there is a section on the Cloud Library app, which is the app I mostly use to listen to audiobooks, that tells you your history of what you've checked out of the library. So I'm going to go through that and just talk about some of the audiobooks that I have enjoyed. I have also previously made an audiobook recommendation video, I want to say 1 or 2 years ago possibly, so I will link that down below as well. So the first one I want to talk about is Charlotte's Web. I want to talk about this one because it was a full cast narration and the narrator of the book itself was Meryl Streep. Every different barnyard animal and person had their own voice actor, and I just love things that are full cast narrations. So to go back to this children's classic for the first time since I was a small child and have it in such a magical format was just really special for me, and I really enjoyed it. Also, there are tons of Roald Dahl books that are all narrated by celebrities, so I heavily suggest listening to Matilda, which is narrated by Kate Winslet, or The Twits, which is narrated by Richard Ayoade. Next, I want to mention Queenie, which is a phenomenal mental health read about this black girl living in London that has her life kind of just fall apart. Don't get me wrong, the voice actor did do a phenomenal job in this, but the reason that I really want to point this one out is I am missing the UK recently. I was actually supposed to go on a trip to the UK this month, and obviously that was cancelled. So being able to listen to an audiobook with an accent from the UK was just something that I really enjoyed. I also absolutely adored Over the Top by Jonathan Van Ness. This is his autobiography. He reads it himself. They are such a wonderful spark of a person. This is a very raw story. Their life has definitely been a complicated and complex one with its ups and its downs, but I absolutely adored that they were able to put this all down on the page and then into my ears. Next, I want to mention the entire Diviners series. I listened to all of these as audiobooks, so my next project is actually to read them as physical books. But January Lavoie does an amazing job with all of these audiobooks. She makes it nice and creepy and dark, just like I imagine it is on the page, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. You could also listen to Looking for Alaska by John Green as narrated by Will Wheaton, which is a weird thing to do because it seems like either Will Wheaton is a fan of John or just knows John's work, because he was reading this in a very John-like cadence, which was just a little bit strange, but also awesome. I also tend to try to read longer books as audiobooks, simply so I don't have to carry them around, and I definitely did that in the case of Once and Future by Amy Rose Capetta and Corey McCarthy. This is a gender-bent, futuristic King Arthur with magical elements, and it is so good, it is so queer, it leaves you off in such an interesting place, and then the second in the duology is also very good, although I read that one as an ebook. But it is a pretty hefty book, not the longest book by far, but it was pretty hefty and that was stopping me from reading it, so reading it as an audiobook definitely helped. Next, I want to mention Hey Kiddo, which is an audiobook adaptation of a graphic novel that is a memoir. The special thing about this is a lot of the people that are in this memoir were playing themselves in the audiobook. In some cases, such as for the younger characters, people's children were playing those characters, which was just so interesting. And learning about that in the afterword of the book almost made me cry on my way home from work. Next, we have Dragons in a Bag, which is the first in a middle grade series about dragons in a bag. It's about this little boy who's dropped off at this stranger's house for the day because his mom has to go and sort out what's happening with their rent, and he ends up on this magical adventure, and I just really enjoyed it and want to read the rest of them. Back to back, I read Realm of Ash and Empire of Sand, which is the opposite order you're supposed to read those books, but it actually doesn't matter. I did it specifically because my friend Jocelyn from Yogi with a Book wondered if you could read them the opposite way and it would work out fine, and it definitely does. This is such an interesting world with very dark magic and patriarchal systems and these wonderful bonds, and there's a little bit of romance thrown in there, and just they're really good. I want to reread them because I read them really quickly. I think I read them in the same week, and they're pretty long. Yeah, Realm of Ash is 16.5 hours and Empire of Sands is 17 hours. So I probably read them back to back as in 1 week and the next week, but either way, I will want to reread these in the future because it was just such lush, beautiful writing. I also love a good thriller as an audiobook because I can be there gasping and actually use my hands in the dramatic gasp because I'm not holding a book. book. Books that made me do that include The Silent Patient, I See You, and I Let You Go. Songs from the Deep is also a very beautiful book. It has to do with sirens, but they are kind of peripheral to the story. You don't really interact with them too much, and it is about this human woman who's your main character. But it's set in a small island in a very rainy location, and it's just such an atmospheric book, and I loved having it in my ears on commute. Just Mercy is another nonfiction book that I highly recommend just in general, but Brian Stevenson, who is the author, also narrates this book. There is a movie that came out recently that I haven't had the chance to see yet, but this is his time as a lawyer and his journey of trying to get wrongly accused people off of death row. If you feel like reading something that's going to completely break your heart, you could always go with The Rules Do Not Apply by Ariel Levy. One month Ariel had a wife and a child on the way and a house, and the next month had none of those things. This is a memoir. It is incredibly heartbreaking. I also want to recommend High School by Sarah and Tegan Quinn. They are Sarah and Tegan from the band, and this is all about them growing up in high school in Alberta and Canada. They did a lot of drugs. They also had a lot of rivalries, being sisters, especially being twin sisters, and they also read the book, and there's also inserts of some of their songs, which is very fun. I could scroll on this app for ages. At this point I'm well into last October, but the last thing I want to mention is The Golden Compass, which is the first in His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. This is a full cast recording. I think we all know I love full cast recordings, so I highly recommend that. It is a children's classic that I had not previously read, and now I need to continue the series. Like I said before, I could mention way more books that I've listened to, but these are just the ones that really popped out of my screen for me while I was scrolling through the app. What audiobooks would you recommend? Let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure I know you are here, you can leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you're on your keyboard. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!